Hello, welcome to My Left Ear. I am Carrie Freeman, the writer, producer, director of My Left Ear, as I always like to say. And it is Tuesday, August 23rd. This is video 113. And for anybody new watching, I want to share that this is a left-leaning YouTube channel. And I do cover political material, and I do the runes as using them as the oracle to make some predictions. I have a little commentary. I talk about something called good evidence, which is uplifting, and I have quotes, which when I first started the YouTube channel, I threw them in because I really like quotes myself, and people loved them. So that's a regular part. All right, here we go. What do I do when I'm not on YouTube is I call myself a change agent. I do psychic coaching, which there's a video on that. And there's also a one sheet, and you can email me. All that information is below in commentary, or it's above in community. Okay, so check that out. Got this wonderful book, A Comic's Daughter, great reviews. I'm selling it myself and shopping it around. But eventually, when my copies go, there will not be any other copies. So whatever you have already will be a collector's item. All right. And I have a Patreon channel. Well, I teach the runes week by week, and I share really delightful celebrity stories. And it's all entertaining. For entertainment purposes only. I say that for YouTube. And if you want to be really nice to me, subscribe and like. That's it. All right. So here we go. I think I've got a lot to cover today. And runes. New polls in just the last 48 hours that the biggest concerns for Americans is loss of democracy. It shifted from inflation to loss of democracy, and that is very good for the Democrats. Very good, very motivating, and people are registering like crazy. All right, so I want to share that with you. Now, I'm going to go right into the runes, number one, because it's entertaining for you. And I pull these questions out of my intuition and my left ear. And by the way, I didn't explain this, but I get intuitive stuff through my left ear. Little messages that guide me. And that will happen in the middle of a session also. Well, I just get told something. All right, so here's the question. Will Trump threaten to extort the U.S. and share secrets? And that would be to negotiate his freedom and stay out of prison. It's a big question, but I pulled the rune of movement, and I'm not pulling the runes and holding them up today because I have a lot of material. And if you want to join Patreon, you can learn about the runes because I teach them every week, about every 4 days. So movement, and movement is it's transit, okay? It's new attitudes. It's movement that betters you. So that's what he's trying to do, better himself. And it says a relationship may need to undergo a change, and movement is action. Then harvest, which is the rune of beneficial outcomes. There's no quick results. It indicates 1 year, symbolizing a full circle before deliverance, before we find out. Like he may have started, this is just speculation on my part, but he may have started extorting already, and we may not know. Like we didn't know that the DOJ was way ahead of the January 6th committee. So we may not know if this threatening, extortion, wanting to negotiate is a very kind way to put it, has started. But the rune reading tells me we really won't find out about it for about a year. Because harvest is a beneficial outcome, but there are no quick results. And that's what I want to say. 1 year symbolizing a full cycle before deliverance. And there's no way to push that. River, we must be patient. Then I got separation, a rune of separating old paths. And I wrote separating from Trump's influence and power is waning. Relationships are discarded. There's a peeling away. It's a rune of radical severance, and the appropriate action is submission. And that would be his submission if he's smart, but he's not smart, all right? And then also, which is interesting, that this is associated with property, which translates into documents. So I want to say, based on this, I think he has started a kind of an extortion thing, or will try that, because, you know, he's kind of ignorant and he's not an individual to learn from mistakes. So this is the implication of this reading. It's a tough question, right? I'm going to go on to Mitch the Turtle McConnell, that on TV the last 3 or 4 days, don't know the exact date, he was being interviewed and he said, well, you know, the Senate will probably win due to candidate quality, meaning GOP candidate quality. And he said it out loud. And so some think it was a dig at the GOP, saying, man, you got it wrong. You just have the wrong candidates. Or, which is more nefarious, he said it so that people, maybe Democrats, feel they don't need to go out and vote. Democrats aren't going to fall for that, by the way. I think he was taking a dig at the GOP. That's what I personally, my left ear thinks. And in terms of, I've asked some questions about the House of Representatives, but I'm not asking any questions about the Senate, because the Democrats are going to take the Senate, which is very exciting. So after Mitch said this about candidate quality, because all the horrific candidates Trump is supporting vocally, then Trump went out on Twitter and on Faith Social to, well, not Twitter because he can't get on Twitter, but anything he writes on Truth Social or Truth Social, someone puts it on Twitter, all right? So then he started attacking Mitch McConnell and his wife, Elaine Chao, viciously. Can't imagine that Lindsey cares too much. Lindsey, I'm looking at Lindsey. I meant Mitch. All right, now we're gonna go on to Miss Lindsey Graham. Just put out a tweet that Trump is too old to go to prison. So I'm gonna say 3 names to you: Whitey Bulger, Bernie Madoff, and the Golden State Killer, all old when they got caught and went to prison, okay? I have no idea why Lindsey said that. He's such a confused child. But, you know, he's resisting testifying in front of the Georgia grand jury. He's making up excuses. He's trying to delay it. And the judge that's in charge of this, I think the 11th Circuit Court, Judge May, a woman, is overseeing this case in Georgia. And so his lawyer asked that judge for a stay. Can we just halt all this before you're making Lindsey go in and talk, to testify? So Lindsey is attempting to claim the 4th Amendment, which is called the Special Debate Clause. And I looked it up. You know, this is how I get educated too. So the clause states that members of both houses of Congress shall in all cases except, now listen to this, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from being arrested during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and going to and from those houses. for any speech or debate in either house. They shall not be questioned in any other place except treason, felony, and breach of peace. So Judge May seems to be a very smart woman. And she turned around and she let him have his little stay, but it's not open-ended, and asked his attorneys to, how do I put this, to submit a document to the courts stating what questions Lindsey does not want to answer in accordance with the Fourth Amendment. That really puts Lindsey in a big double bind, smart lady. And we don't know if he's filed the papers with any answers. But Lindsey did ask the Secretary of State to throw out votes in Georgia when it isn't even his territory or his state. But he's saying he had a right to do it. And here's my big question. What compromat does Trump have on Lindsey Graham? That he's cowering, he's afraid to speak. There's a sense that he may have some compromat, because that's the way, Jeffrey, what's his name, the pedophile, worked, and he had compromat on everybody. And Trump's that type also in a New York Minute. There's a reason he doesn't want to cross Trump. And this compromat, I'm not going to go over the top with it. I'm just going to say, I had a chat with a journalist, and it may be somewhat similar to what they found on Alex Jones's phone, except boys. And that's all I'm going to say. And I don't know. All right. That's what my left ear is thinking. Now, Giuliani, we don't know what he said in his 8-hour or 9-hour grand jury. This is Giuliani. Yet. We will. Did he answer the questions? Did he claim the fifth? They want to ask him, basically, what did the president tell you, Mr. Giuliani? Now, if his questioning with the grand jury was like 8 or 9 hours, did he say, I plead the fifth for 8 or 9 hours? I have a feeling he talked. He likes to talk, Giuliani, he likes to talk. Can't help himself. Kind of like Trump. Here's the runes that I did on Giuliani. Will Rudy flip now? Because he could. They could come back and give him some leniency, So here's what I got. I got movement. Got it a few times today. And movement means a transit, new attitudes, movement that betters you, and a relationship that may need to undergo a change. That is pretty literal to me. Okay, then I got constraint, the rune of constraint, that talks about learning to deal with severe constraints, and that would be from the feds, those constraints. Also, it's about obstacles we create for ourselves, time to pay off all debts. Well, Giuliani clearly created all of this himself. He didn't have to get into trouble. So that's that. And then I got the rune of the self in the reversed position. And it says only the willingness to change is going to work or be effective. And it says rectification comes before progress. So he must rectify. And there's a good feeling based on these runes, and my left ear is he'll flip. He won't want to, but he'll want to save himself. Okay, so there we go. Now, I'm going to go into Trump world now, which is kind of extensive. First off, the DOJ asked the judge not to release the affidavit because Trump's people and lawyers and some GOP members, a lot of them, want to see that affidavit. Now, what's in that affidavit is so top secret. It has informants and it has techniques, And everybody was kind of like, oh no, what is this judge doing? But he must have processed all of it and figured too much of the affidavit would have to be blacked out. Redacted is the word. And it really wouldn't benefit or inform anything. So it appears like the desire or the request for the affidavit is going away, which is a very good thing. And it will not help anybody. Now, in the meantime, Trump, through his social, which is hilarious, right? Truth, has been spouting off about, oh, I blew up again. You know how that always happens to me. Here we go. That Trump has been spouting off about wanting a special master to review the FBI search. And that is a legitimate term, special master. It means a third party comes in, neutral, and goes over everything. But that's a lot to go over. However, it could be Trump's big fat mouth because nothing has been filed. There's been no motion for a special master filed. And if you listen to Neil Katyal, former constitutional lawyer, professor, he's one of my two favorites. Andrew Weissman and Neil Katyal are so brilliant and informed, and they have that professorial thing. They teach really well. That it will backfire on him. If they actually put in the motion for a special master, it will not be to Trump's advantage. And if Neil Katyal says that, I believe it. All right. Now, Neil says that he thinks Trump is a target of the special grand jury, but we don't know yet. It certainly seems that way. My left ear says yes. Okay. But we know the grand jury is looking at, number one, the false electors plot, which includes a number of people, and the January 6th Capitol attack. We know that, all right? Those are good fodder. Also, which is positive, some people assumed that Trump's attorneys had access to the affidavit, but they don't. Neil Katyal says he does not think they have access. They have not seen it. But they did release, Trump did this, release the names of the FBI agents that searched Mar-a-Lago, released them. And I think maybe someone's working on it. I might be picking up on something that I don't know I'm picking up on. But what came through to me is I wish someone would write a book called Trump's Revenge and just document all the things he's done for the sake of revenge. I think that would be a hot book. I'd read it. All right. So now the New York Times yesterday gets even bigger. Announced that 300 classified documents, classified with an uppercase C, have been located. And it is known that Trump actually went through 15 boxes of this stuff in order to decide what to keep and what would be valuable. So there's more. 700 pages of highly classified documents were found. They come under the category as vitally important, and these are the initials of those highly classified, TSSCI. I only heard of this term like 2 days ago. It is top secret, sensitive, compartmented information. It is of the highest order. It is dangerous in anybody else's hands. This is big. Trump's not going to get out of this. There's just no way. You and I might not have complete and utter satisfaction, but he's not getting out of this. And there's a former White House attorney named Alan Hirschman who's been long gone, but he's being called to testify to the grand jury because he knows so much about Donald Trump. He's not up to anything. He's not accused of anything, this Alan Hirschman. He's clean. They just want him to answer questions. And also, I want you to know, and I had thought this a long time ago, that whoever transported the documents to Mar-a-Lago, they did not have the authority. And when we find out, they could be charged for doing it. All right. Now, the story is, this is another one, Trump's lawyers leaked voting documents to Trump's conspiracy theorists, his gang. Materials were copied to disk, memory sticks were used to affect state election. And it appears that the very insane cray-cray Sidney Powell was completely involved in supervising this. Swear to God, her day is coming. Her day is coming. Now, in terms of these highly classified docs, this is what I think is correct, that when representatives or senators want to view any such documents, they go into a very secure room that has no windows, and their phones are taken away, their Apple Watches or anything mechanical is removed. And if after meeting, and we're talking about all, there's 8 members that have the right to look at the affidavit, is leaked, we'll know that it's one of the 8 people. So just want to mention that. Actually, Claire McCaskill says, when you look at these documents, which I got a little peaty hair on my lipstick. When you look at these documents and you have permission to look at them, you go into this room, and she thinks it's safe. And it doesn't sound like it would be, but Claire McCaskill would be the first person to say that because she's been in the house. All right, so here's another runes reading for you because I really want to know. I looked, and I couldn't find poll numbers, which is weird, I know. So to answer this question, will Dems win the House? I got protection. The first rune, control of emotions are recommended, and that would be recommended to the Democrats as their challenge. Do not collapse into your emotions during times of transition and accelerated growth, which is right now. New opportunities, but also new challenges. Correct conduct is vital, and you will progress. Now, we would only, I can say I would only expect correct conduct from the Democrats in the House. I mean, because they all are good. What can I say? Then I got partnership. A partnership is at hand in business. And it says, do not collapse into that union. Let the winds blow between you. It's the gift of freedom. And all of that sounds good and promising. But the third rune was the rune of constraint, which tells us there will be holdups and setbacks. And it says, mend and restore, pay off old debts. It's about hostility. So I kept going because I just wasn't clear. And of course, I personally want the Democrats to take over the House by even more than they have already. So the clarifier, it's not good. I got growth reversed, where diligence is needed. The challenge is the obstacles, but growth is assured. Now, I'll just tell you my interpretation of this result, this rune's result. I think it's entirely possible that the House will win and continue to be the majority, but maybe even by 1 or 2 extras. But the GOP, being the GOP, is going to hold it up, is going to fight it. And I think that's what the constraint is. That's what the reversal of growth. But it does say growth is assured. So I'm going to lean towards the Democrats maintaining the House, maybe adding 1 or 2. I'm leaning towards that without feeling as confident as I do about the Senate. But I'm looking at this, and in the middle of all this, there's these positive messages. It's the gift of freedom. Holdups and setbacks, those are the GOP people fighting. No, we won. Let's have a recount, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be frustrating, all right? Now, this is something I wanted to know, but I have to think some of you are interested in this. I like the candidate, Marcus Flowers, who's up against Marjorie Taylor Greene. It doesn't look good for Marcus Flowers, and boy, he just would have been great. He hasn't lost yet, but it's not looking good unless we get like an unbelievable surprise. Part of it is that she is operating in a very red county. I mean, redder than red. And that's his challenge. So the runes were not encouraging, and he's in the red county. So we've got blocked movement as the first rune, watching gains dwindle. It says not all opportunities are available to you, which meaning him. I got journey reversed, disruptions, failures, a symbolic death. It is very sad to me and infuriating that Marjorie Taylor Greene was allowed to run, and that she actually may win against this fabulous guy, Marcus Flowers, in Georgia. And so until she gets nailed for sedition and her part, because she's that long list of asked for pardons, we just have to overwhelm her and put up with her to some degree. She's just a terrible, dangerous, lying piece. And not P-E-A-C-E. Okay, she's a piece. Let me just say she's a piece of work, all right? Now, the Ukraine, or Ukraine, not the Ukraine, Ukraine. A few short headlines here. On May 24th, Forbes Ukraine, I got a good runes for this, by the way, so stay with me. Forbes Ukraine reported that Russia occupies about 20+% of Ukrainian territory. Then on June 2nd, Ukrainian President Zelensky said the same thing. Russians occupy about 20% of Ukraine territory in total. Now, Washington Post headline, Ukraine could be turning the tide of war against Russia. Okay? Washington Post. Washington Post. Then on July 28th, from Kiev, about Kiev, Ukraine, Russian advances in Ukraine have slowed almost to a standstill as newly delivered Western weapons help Ukrainian forces. And I will tell you, Ukrainians know how to use those weapons. They are better than the Russians. And some of those weapons did come from the Biden administration. So we just kind of want to keep supporting them, praying for them. They're an amazing people, and I'm one half Ukraine, so I'm very proud of that. All right, the runes. This is what I asked. Let me just interject something. I have noticed lately, if I ask about a rune and I give it a time frame, I tend to get like really interesting answers. Like putting in that little time frame is really helpful. I'm turning on my little baby fan so I get a little air. Okay. Will the Russia/Ukraine conflict end by June of 23? And I call it a conflict because Ukraine didn't want the war. They were invaded and attacked. So when I say war, it feels like both have equal interest. Ukraine just wants to maintain Ukraine, and Russia attacked. So that's why I called it a conflict, okay? I got signals which is the messenger rune. And it says, you may be concerned about what looks like failed communication. You may feel inhibited to accept what is offered. And that may be that Zelensky has offered some kind of a deal or a compromise. There is a sense of futility, but what is happening is timely. It advises cleanse out the old and consider the use of adversity. Now, the second rune, the self. The self has to do with clarity, willingness to change, equals effectiveness. The willingness to change equals effectiveness. My impression is that Zelensky doesn't want to compromise. He doesn't want to give it all. He doesn't feel like he should have to, nor do I, and many other people. It says, strive to live the ordinary life in the non-ordinary way. Well, they're doing that right now. I mean, my God, what's happened to these people? Rectification comes before progress. And if you cut this rune in half, it looks like the rune of joy. The last rune is meaningful. It's the breakthrough rune, transformation day. And it says, a period of achievement and prosperity. Darkness is behind you. Daylight has come. And I asked how long this was going to be. This is going to end before June of 2023. And I think it will. Now, it may be that Putin is sick, and it may be that he passes. It may be that he's assassinated, or it may be that with new artillery, that Ukraine just does it. They're passionate. The Russians are not. Russian soldiers are leaving, want to leave. A Russian soldier wrote a big thing, I think that was in the New York Times, about I want no part of this. They don't have the passion that the Ukrainians, they're just following, Putin's orders. So that's the prediction, my friends. And it could happen anytime between now and June of 23. We just don't know the how. We don't know the how. Let me just tell you about these runes. My girlfriend, her father died 6 months ago. And then her mother started to fail, very elderly woman. And my friend moved in to take care of her. And it was getting, she had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and thyroid problems. And I did the runes on mom. And I put the time frame. Will my friend's mother survive, pass before November? And I clearly got, yes, she will. So my friend is very open to the truth. She's strong, and she is also a tarot reader and hypnotherapist and very psychic. So I felt very comfortable telling her what the rune said before November. And in fact, she passed this Saturday. She fell down, broke her hip, was in insane pain, went to the hospital. They took all this blood, and she was riddled with cancer, and they put her on morphine, and she passed. And what's really magical is she passed 6 months to the day that her husband died, my friend's father. This is very kind of poetic. But here's a sense where I put a time frame, and it was completely correct. And there was another one, and I can't think of what it is. If I remember it, I'll plug it in. And now these are just little bullet points before I get to good evidence and the quotes. Don't know if you know this, but 57% of U.S. citizens want the January 6th committee to continue. Don't know if you saw this, but Senator Ron Johnson I'm pretty sure it's Wisconsin. I forgot to look it up. I had so much going on this morning, but I think it's Wisconsin. Admitted in an interview last week, hey, I was only a part of this January 6th event for a few seconds. I mean, it was a few seconds. So what he did was he admitted it. And no one is a part of this for a few seconds. So Ron is probably in trouble. And also, Ron's not going to win back his senatorial seat. He's not going to. He's way behind. I can't remember his opponent's name right now. I didn't do a deep dive into Ron, but I'm having this memory that his opponent is way ahead of him. He's not coming back. He's the guy who wanted to, he's one of the GOP that wanted to pull Medicaid, Medicare, and what else? Social Security. Oh yeah, good idea, fellas. All right. And then I don't know if you know this, but there's a new billionaire owner of CNN, and he's going in and he's making CNN what he calls centric, which is really to the right, unlike Beyonce, to the left. People are beginning to boycott CNN, and that includes me. And far as I'm concerned, the one person that is on CNN that I think is really spectacular is Jim Acosta. And I hope he leaves because he's a very valuable guy. He's very talented. All right, that was a lot. And it's a little longer than I did before. So I just want to talk about some good evidence. I have a couple of things, but I decided when I put this necklace on, oh, good evidence. So let me just tell you, this necklace is really pretty. I don't know if you can see it, but it has sparkle and it's sort of neutral, handmade. Well, it was sent to me by my left ear subscriber. I work with her daughter with coaching, and they really are like sort of super watchers. And there have been a couple of emails back and forth, but she sent me this with a beautiful letter. And here's the funny part, because she and her daughter think I'm funny sometimes. She sent me 2 boxes of parchment paper. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I tried to buy parchment paper at Bed Bath & Beyond, went there twice, and was ignored. So they thought that was very funny. They thought that story. And I got to tell you, I made chocolate chip cookies the other day with the parchment paper you gave me. It's the best gift. Isn't that weird? Parchment paper. Anyway, I thought it was. I love this necklace. And I actually like to wear necklaces more than earrings. So thank you. No names being mentioned. And also, here's the other thing. Oh my God, I almost forgot. The next day after this came with the parchment paper and the beautiful letter, I got another box. And I go, I didn't order anything that big. I mean, it was a big box. I was like, what's going on? I opened it. It was another gift. And it was from a Twitter friend that I've never met. But she saw the picture of my foot, which, did I tell you it's fractured? I don't remember. I went for x-rays. It's fractured. So it's still being treated, and I'm still limited. And she just wanted me to feel better. So she ordered a like a gift thing, and it has the most fantastic little slippers, because the slippers are like terry cloth, cozy. And when I walk around my apartment wearing the slippers, it's much better than shoes. There was tea, there was honey, there were butter cookies. And so I got gifts from 2 people that I've never met in person. And this is very touching to me. The woman on Twitter, we have talked on the phone once about politics, because she's an ex-school teacher. She's a few years older than me with a family in Florida. So we talk a lot about how much we don't like Ron DeSantis and how we're afraid of him. We're very aligned politically. And I wrote her and a private on Twitter, and I said, thank you. I said, you are the best friend that I've never had a cup of coffee with. And that would be true of this individual too. Isn't that funny? And that was 2 days in a row, people that I have not met. And I have to tell you, that is really touching. That is really good evidence, and it lifted me. It lifted me. So thank you. Just thank you. Now we go to quotes. And here's a quote by Booker T. Washington. Let me tell you, he was born April 5th, 1856, and he died in November 1915. He was an American Republican, an educator, author, orator, and advisor to several presidents of the United States. And between 1890 and 1915, Washington was a dominant leader in the African American community. And he was from the last generation of Black American leaders born into slavery and became the leading voice of the former slaves and their descendants. What a guy, Booker T. Washington. This is what he said: if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. Isn't that about evidence? Good evidence? And then the other quote is by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who was very famous for talking about the stages of grief and about death and dying. And she said, regarding loss, you will be whole again, but you will never be the same, nor should you be the same, nor would you want to be the same. It's very profound. So there we go. I went a little over today. God only knows how long it's going to upload this thing, but fingers crossed. It was good seeing you. Thanks for hanging in. And make peace, make memories. And I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon, okay? Take care. And I'll make a Patreon announcement soon, too, so you know what to expect. All right, remember, make peace, make memories. Bye-bye.